Arrived on the doorstep of Endfloat Towers is this Fiat 500 in for a service, so let's get stuck in. These quirky little cars seem to be all over the roads these days. Fiat really outdid themselves with the design of it. They're actually a very good kind of approximation of the original. Unlike what Ford did with the Capri, which was an absolute abomination and a disgrace. I don't know what Ford were thinking. But on the other hand, let's have a look and see what this little retro motor is hiding in store for us. So straight away you can actually see the engine. It's not all plastic cover, which is a nice surprise. So let's get the oil drained out of it first of all, and we'll get stuck into the service. I'm going to be doing a car review on this afterwards. So first off, I'm going to just jack the car up enough to give me some access to the drain plug. If you have a ramp, obviously you can use it, but I actually do have a ramp, but there's a car on it. And to be honest with you, as far as servicing is concerned, most of the work is done on the top anyway. So it's really, for jobs like this, I tend to just use a jack. Right, so the car is now sitting on a pair of axle stands at the front, and I just have to jack in underneath it as well, just for extra safety. I tend to do that, but it's not actually bearing any weight to the car anymore. So now I'm going to undo the drain plug. It's somewhat annoying that the drain plug is a 12mm hex, so if you don't have a 12mm Allen key, you're going to need to go and pick one up for yourselves or use the head of a bolt, but that's not exactly ideal. To be honest with you, it shouldn't be a huge expense to get the 12mm Allen key that you need. Annoyingly, most Allen key sets actually just only go up to 10mm, so that's why you kind of have to figure out something else. Now, fortunately enough, I did have the right tool, so it's out. The oil is now draining. While that's dripping away, let's get our filter replaced and have a look at our air filter and spark plugs as well. In order to remove the air filter, we have to remove these 7mm headed bolts. Why 7mm and not 8mm, I don't know, but why a 12mm hex drain plug and not just a 13mm hex or 17mm, I don't know. But listen, I don't design these things. Okay, and there we go. There is the air filter removed. Looks like it's brand new, to be honest with you, but we'll change it nonetheless. We have a new one. Now, before we go any further, we're going to have to take this plenum off here because the spark plugs are underneath it. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to undo the cap-headed bolt that's down here, which is holding on this pipe, just for simplicity's sake, and then we will take off. There's two what look to be 10mm headed bolts here, which are probably 11mm just for the sake of it, and there is what seems to be a cap head bolt at the back. So we'll get them all out. Okay, we'll get that out of the way now. I mean, yeah, technically you could have taken the entire plenum with the air filter still in it off and then changed it on the ground, but look, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, isn't it? Yep, 10mm. Wow, this is old school actually, to be honest with you, the way they do things in this. They're not individual coil packs. Actually isn't a cap head bolt, it's just a sort of a rubber spud that it goes down onto. So we can kind of get that up out of our way there now. You don't actually necessarily have to take it off all the way. So there's the intake for our throttle body. I'm surprised it doesn't have a carburetor at this rate. Listen, I'm not complaining actually, to be honest with you. I like when they don't overcomplicate things. So this is all good so far. The only thing is the fasteners, being a peculiar size, are a little bit annoying, but they're mild inconvenience really, all things considered. Right, the two hoses pop off quite easily, and that gives us plenty of access to the top end of the engine, and we can clean that now in a minute as well. So here is our coil pack, and down here are our HT leads, which is something you don't see too often on cars anymore. But on the end of the HT leads are the spark plugs. So you pull one of them off, you're going to find yourself a spark plug down the very back. And there are 4 of them, it being a 4-cylinder engine. So we're going to pop them out now in a minute, but before we do that, I want to change the oil filter. So there is the oil pan, there is the oil plug, and up here is the canister type oil filter. Fiat, all is forgiven. I just so much prefer these canister type filters. And it wasn't growing on it either, so I was able to undo it by hand, which is the way it should be. And it's easily accessible. Absolute gift. I have a new blueprint filter to go onto it, so we're just going to give the O-ring on it a little smear of oil and screw it on, and we're just going to tighten it hand tight fully hand tight now. I mean, you need to stitch it with your hand, but don't go and throw a wrench on it and swing out of the bloody thing like some people seem to feel the need to do these days. I've been working on cars for 20 plus years, and I've always been doing it this way, and I've never had a filter fall off. Okay, so that's that should be proof enough for you. So, all right, there we go. That is tight. That is not going anywhere. So now I'm going to put the drain plug back in, and we're going to fill it up with oil. These some plugs are actually a taper, so which is actually quite nice because it means you don't need a sump washer on it. So I'll forgive it that. Now there we go. I'll give our oil filter housing a little wipe as well. I don't want any oil drips. All good. Okay, so now we're ready to put fresh oil into it. For those of you wondering what I do with my old engine oil, you can bring it to recycling centres in Ireland. They have receptacles there where you can throw out used engine oil, and I think the limit is about 5 litres. If you're there's no charge if you're only getting rid of 5 litres, but if you're getting rid of 20 or 30 litres, you might have to spend a small amount, which I tend to have to do, to be honest with you. It's never a huge amount though. So that's what you can do in Ireland. The recycling centres have oil receptacles. I don't know what the situation is in your country, but that's what we can do here. So I imagine it's probably something similar. Don't throw it down the drain, folks, please. We're not in the 1970s anymore. The oil I'm putting in is 5W40 PD, which is low SAPS engine oil, apparently. So it's new generation low SAPS engine oil, ideal for vehicles with long service intervals. So that's it's going to be this car. So we shall throw this oil into it. Just get rid of a few tools here. We're just going to fill it up until it's just kind of well showing up on the dipstick, but not over full. And then when it's on the level, then we'll top it off. Thin enough stuff, this. Right, so I'm just going to throw a little bit in and just look underneath and make sure it's not piddling out the bottom of the engine. Okay. Happy days. Right. Alright, that's 3 litres gone into it there now, so we will leave it at that for the time being and we'll top it off afterwards. Right, so that's the oil change done. We've got the air filter housing out and we're ready to do the spark plugs. I can't do them though because the motor factors don't actually have the spark plugs in stock. They'll have them in for me later on today, so when I do have them, we'll reconvene and I'll show you them then. But in the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to do our checks on the rest of the car and make sure that we have everything else squared away. So let's just have a look at the brakes first of all. So we're going to just pop our centre cap off here first of all. And we will get our impact gun off. Buzz the 4 of those bolts out and just take a look at the brakes, and we'll do that on all 4 corners and make sure that they're 100% and that there's no issues brewing in them. So what we're looking for here is first of all that there's still material left on the pad and they're about half worn, and the other thing we're looking for then is to make sure that it's even wear right the way across, because that would be a telltale sign of a seized slider. So this car hasn't got huge mileage on it, but there's a few kind of bits of corrosion and stuff like that on the outside of the discs. Now, that wear step is not excessive, but to be honest with you, I would imagine by the time these pads are getting replaced, those discs will be getting replaced as well, which would be no harm. But there's still plenty of life left in both at the moment, so we're good to go. And you do that on both the inside and the outside of the calipers, on both sides. That side is fine. Let's do the rest of them. The front brakes are grand, so we've got our oil servicing done. That's fine. Next to have a look at is the light bulbs. And the customer did tell me that there is one that's out, so we're going to replace that. You'd be forgiven for thinking that these are LEDs, but they're actually not. You can see there's a light bulb down inside there, in behind this section. But the light bulb that's out is actually both of these, which is quite surprising. Okay, so then we need to replace them. All that we need to do now here on these is just get a little screwdriver in at the side of the lens, where there's a little gap. Drop the lens on the ground, which is good. All right. And pop the bulb out, and it is one of these little festoon bulbs, but I don't think they're necessarily blown, so I'm going to actually have a look and see. I'm going to stick a meter on them and make sure that they're actually blown before we go and stick new ones in and find that they still don't work. That's what I was afraid of. These bulbs are not gone, so they tested fine. I actually put them across the battery, they lit up, so we're going to pop them back in and we're going to have to look elsewhere for a problem. My first port of call is unfortunately going to be in there where the wiring comes through to the boot. I know Nissan Micros have this problem where the wiring breaks there, But don't know about Fiat. I imagine it's probably a similar setup. In actual fact, it's there's a huge lot of similarities between these and Nissan Micras. Let's get these bulbs back in first anyway. Wish me luck, we're going in. So take off this little grab handle here first of all, and we're going to take off the inner boot panel, and we're going to have a look and see if there's power going to them, and if not, we're just going to have to trace the wiring back. I have a funny feeling we're going to find a frayed wire somewhere and we're going to have to repair it. So I've got the boot liner peeled away here now, and you can see here this is the connector in question for the tail light bulbs on the number plate light bulbs even. So we're going to check for power here at these and see what we're getting back. Okay, so we have 3 wires here. One of them is orange and white, and that is for the boot release, because although there's a handle, it is actually just an electrical switch, and that power goes through here. And then we've got a ground, and we've got the power for the license plate lights. So let's have a look and see what we're dealing with here on this now. Stick that in there, and if we're seeing 12 volts here, which we're not. Okay, so we've no power there on the license plate lights at all, even though the lights are on the car. So that means that the wiring problem is further down the line. So we now need to look down here at the far corner of the boot, which is where I strongly suspect the issue may lie. So let's plug that back in there for the moment. All right. So I'm just going to peel this away here. And here's our problem. Broken wire, as suspected. And there's plenty of other frayed wires in there as well, so we need to fix that. Unfortunately, the wire has disappeared down into the C-pillar here, so we need to take off the C-pillar cover and try and find out where it's after going. So we're going to have to try and trace the wiring back there. It's going to start getting a little bit finicky at this stage. So I've kind of pushed the boot back as far as I can on the wiring, but I'm just not seeing the other end of the wire. So I don't know where the hell the bloody thing has gone. It must have just gotten pulled back somehow. But what I will do is I'll be extending that. I mean, talk about a flimsy wire, for God's sake. I mean, they could have A, protected it a bit better, and B, maybe put a slightly thicker wire in than that. But we will fix it, we'll get it right. Okay, so what I had to do, unfortunately, is just cut a little bit of the boot that goes here. And what I'll do is I'll stick it back together again afterwards. I didn't cut too much into it, but once I kind of cut this part, the grommet part away, I was able to see the wire down inside and get it with the long nose pliers. So next thing to do is to do a repair on this, and we will put a little bit of tape around those wires with the damaged insulation. The wire inside seems to be all right still, so that's really all that needs. But yeah, Fiat, this is a shit design. So I'm going to add a piece of wire onto this because obviously it's if I strip that and try and join it, it's going to be too short, and the likelihood is it'll just break again. So what I'll do is I'm going to use solder sleeves for joining it. So we're just going to strip this wire back here. So that's that, and then we're going to strip these wires as well. And the last thing to do now is to just heat these up to shrink them, and then obviously we'll tape everything up then afterwards. And now let's see if they work. Yes, they do. Happy days, that's a good fix. And you can see here everything is back together, and all there is as evidence is that little nick there, which you can put a little bit of RTV on. And I'm actually just going to put a bit of adhesive on that, and the number plate lights are working, so happy days. Now that we have the number plate lights all sorted out, the dashboard warning should have cleared as well. But the other dashboard warning I want to clear is also for the tyre pressure monitoring system, or TPMS, because although I've checked the tyre pressures and they're all fine, there's still a warning showing up, so I'm going to show you what to do now. With the dashboard in this configuration here, which is basically your home screen, if you just press the little menu button down the bottom here and cycle up through by pressing the plus button, one of them is reset tyres. So when you get to this one, you just press the menu button again. It asks you, do you want to reset? You press this one. So this is also the enter button as well, the menu button. So we're going to press yes, confirm. So we're going to change the confirm to yes. So press the plus button and then press that. Saved reset. Okay, so that means that the tyre pressure monitoring system has been reset, and in order for it to sort itself out, what you need to do is take it for a drive again, because it needs to be driven in order for it to calculate tyre pressure. But it should be fine now anyway. So that's that all sorted out. No intervention was necessary to clear the fault for the number plate lights, so that's all done, that's all cleared. So that's grand. Well, the spark plugs arrived in anyway. €47 though. They must be some magical spark plugs or something like that, because €47 for spark plugs. I imagine they're those iridium tipped ones or whatever, but still and all, I mean, bloody hell. Like, I remember when you used to be able to buy spark plugs for €2.50. Anyway, those days are over, unfortunately. Let's get them fitted. I feel like I want to keep the old ones and wear them as a bloody necklace or something like that. All right, so let's get these super spark plugs out of here. The old ones probably do need a replacement, all right. Just looking at them there, they're fairly furry looking. Anyway, right, that's why we have new ones. So let's stick them in. I'd say these have probably been in the car since new, especially what with the fact that they say FPT on them. That's I think it's Fiat Power Technologies. They make industrial engines and that as well. There's one new one in. You don't need to stitch the spark plugs, by the way, folks. Snugged up. It's fine. I'll give me my socket back. Come on. Okay, that's the 4 new spark plugs installed, so that's all good. So now what we can do is get our air filter housing with its new filter element back on. What I've got to do is actually put the filter element in before I bolt it all together. Why do I take? Yeah, bin of div goes in that way. All right. So now we'll just button this up and install it into the car. Alright, there's the filter housing reassembled. So take our bolts out. I like to put the bolts into the holes that they're supposed to come out of, so that I know where they are and which bolts go where. So just makes life a little bit easier. So get it. Take on there. So that's going to go down there onto the throttle body, and we've got the 2 bolts here, and last one here is a little cap headed lad. Now I'm going to put a bit of copper grease on this because this was actually quite sticky when it was coming out, so I don't want it to bind up. Of course, I just realised I forgot to connect on the 2 pipes onto this crankcase breather, and I'm not fully sure what the other one is, but in any case it needs to be connected. Everybody makes mistakes. It's how you deal with the mistakes is what sets you apart. Now, that's the job. Okay, right. So now we need to reset our service indicator light. Now, there are 2 possible avenues of approach for resetting the service indicator light. The first one we're going to try is the one you can do at home, and it may not work because this is a later car, but we're going to try it anyway. So I'm going to turn on the ignition until the dashboard's lit up. Right front door open. Yeah, I know. All right. Get rid of all that. Okay. Now, apparently what you have to do is you have to press the accelerator pedal 3 times, turn it off, and back on again. Now, there is no service indicator light actually showing up on this car at this moment in time. So, let's start the engine up anyway. I have to say, it's a lovely quiet engine. Really is. There's no tickiness or anything out of it. Right, I don't know if the service indicator light has been reset or anything, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to plug my console into it and I'm going to do a proper reset on it. Obviously, for you guys playing at home, you're probably not going to have a console to plug in, but unfortunately that's one for you guys to figure out. If the method of pressing the accelerator pedal 3 times with the ignition on works for you, then happy days, but I can't promise anything on that front. The diagnostic port is in behind this little cubby here. Can we remove it without emptying all the coins all over the place? Yes, we can. Happy days, right. Okay, and there it is. So I have my little wireless doofer plugged into the diagnostic, and that's given me the connection for my screen here. So we're going to go in here and see what diagnostics we can do, and basically, let's see. So once I have it up and connected and everything like that, I'll bring it back. So the only fault that's showing up is body controller. So we're going to go in here and read DTCs, and it says plate light circuit open, so we can clear that fault. Condition ignition on and engine off, that's what we've got. So you sure you want to continue? Yes. No trouble codes. Happy days. And say what you want about Fiats, folks, but this is a hell of a lot better than most Renaults I've seen, and to be honest with you, I think yeah, that's fairly encouraging. And you know what, it really was not the worst car in the world to service. So the last thing I'm going to do now is to reset the service indicator light, and then give it back to the owner. So I'm sure she'll be delighted as well. And there we have it, another car serviced. I hope you got a bit from this video, and if you have any questions, comments or concerns or observations, please do stick them in the comments below. I always read them and I do appreciate them, and please hit the subscribe button before you go, and I will see you in a future video. Thank you for watching. I think I'll give it a belt of a sponge actually. There we go, that's looking a bit better.